We are here in ibuy Premium's Himalayan Tahr Lodge, and ibuy is going to share with us today everything we need to do in order to herd manage your Tahr to help you to spawn a great one sooner, or to help you to get larger rares, spawn way more diamonds, and maybe even a super rare. And ibuy actually got a super rare Tahr last night, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, right after we were talking about it, actually, I ended up spawning a guaranteed super rare red Tahr.
And this is it right here. Isn't it stunning? And how many kills did it take for this one?
This one was right around 1,300 kills.
And do you think this super rare spawning had a lot to do with herd management?
Oh, absolutely. I think that if I wasn't spawning as many level 5s and diamonds as I have been, that obviously I have a lower chance, right?
Absolutely. So today ibuy is going to share his herd management strategy for Tahr with us today. Now, let me know in the comments, what is your absolute best trophy from Te Awaroa? That is where we're headed today. And somewhere in the video, I am going to share a key phrase. Drop that in the comments for your chance to win a 1-month membership to the channel. And we are going to dive right into it. All right.
Let's go.
So we are out here on ibuy's Te Awaroa map. And with the last update, Tahr were renamed to Himalayan Tahr, and they are now here in Te Awaroa as well as in Sundar Patan. They're on 2 maps now. My first question for you is, what is the benefit of doing your grind here in Te Awaroa as opposed to doing it in Sundar Patan?
A lot fewer zones is the #1 thing, and I think overall, like, simplicity of just finding the zones, right? Overall, this map has been extremely easy for me to find zones. There's not many. So right now, currently in 1 feed time, I have 30 zones. When you're looking for your zones, it doesn't matter which one of the feed times you pick. It's going to vary person to person on where your Tahr are going to be located during those feed times. For me, 17 to 20 is best and has them placed pretty tight together to where I can hunt multiple zones from one location. And then finding zones, again, that was super simple. A lot of people like to start at the bottom and work their way up through the thick wooded areas and stuff like that and just try and find them. I like to kind of go from a top-down approach, and I go to the tops of the ridge lines, and it gives you kind of like a bird's eye view of where your Tahr are at on the map.
Okay, so this is how ibuy finds his zones. And do people have to find all of their zones like they do for drink zones for whitetail, for example?
Absolutely not. I think for any grind, for the most part, that you don't have to find them. However, I always recommend finding every zone because you want to know what's on your map, especially if you're going to be herd managing. If you happen to find half your zones, right? What's in the other half of your zones? You know, you could have diamonds, you could have potential super rares, initial spawn, stuff like that, that you have no clue about if you actually don't go put in the work to find your zone. So if you're trying to herd manage, you're not going to do so well at it if you ignore a good portion of your zones.
Fair enough. Okay. So step 1 to setting up your grind is finding your zones. Now there are multiple feed zone times that you can set up on, and here they are on the screen. And how did you end up picking the you're on 17 to 20?
Yeah.
And how did you pick that time frame?
So I went through the different feed times, and for me, whenever I got to 17 to 20, from the ridge lines where I set up to actually spot my zones in these areas here, I noticed that I had multiple groups where I could place one tent and actually shoot, 2, sometimes 3, even 4 zones from one location. And as soon as I saw that, I was set at 17 to 20. I finished up, and I'm just doing the best I can, even still, to try and find every exterior zone and solo that I can in the 17 to 20.
Okay. And where do you go to find your zones?
All the ridge lines on the map. So there's a few locations. We'll jump around and I will show you exactly where I set up at to find the zones. But a big part of it is just skipping past all the stuff, like get yourself to an outpost and, have your tents on you and come up to these ridge lines and place tents. And that is the best way to start.
And what is your loadout when you are setting up?
My loadout is simply a rifle. So I've been using the 30-06 from the Rapid Hunt rifle pack, and that's been a really good gun for me. With the community challenge, the way it is right now, you need the harvest checks on class 4, 5, and 6 animals. Will Tahr fit right in there at the bottom, and so I've been using the 30-06.
Nice.
Other than that, tents and tripods. That's pretty much it. You can use tents and tripods or tents and blinds, however you want to do it, but for sure, take a good class weapon with you and tents.
Okay, and do you grind it all with the 300?
I do on really long shots on non-trophy animals. I do take them with that just because it puts them down and I know I can go and quickly harvest them. I do also on this one, I shoot solos as I go just because I'm going to be finding zones and stuff like that. So if I have a big 4 or something like that in a solo zone, I shoot that because I'm going to be moving around the map, finding zones, and chances are you're going to pick those solos back up and hope that they spawn smaller than what they are, right?
So you have a different loadout for when you're grinding as opposed to when you're setting up?
Yeah, so I still run a tent and I run the 300 and then also I still run the 30-06.
Cool.
Now, the only reason that I run tents still in my loadout is simply because the beaver's in the game, right? If one of my tents happens to get pulled up or something like that, I can quickly place it back down and move on with the grind. Okay, so up here on this ridge right here, you'll place a tent down. This will allow you to spot this entire valley here. Now, if anything gets out of your render range, so at about 380 meters from distance, most likely things aren't going to be rendered in until you get closer to that. Now, if an animal is spooked and running away, they do de-render at 420 meters, right?
Okay, so one of the spots to help find your zones is right here. Look at all the zones in this area. Okay, so there are about 5 spots where ibuy comes to do some intense spotting to find his zones, right?
Right, yeah. And so with this right here, when you come to these zones, all you're going to be doing is you actually use it just as a fast travel point, but you're going to be glassing out across these. So there's a group there, but there's another group. There's actually a big group of males over here to the right as well, but they take a long time to come in sometimes. So, and you're just basically going to work your way down from here and spotting all the way down to that last zone right there, lady.
Way down there. That's way out of render.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I basically like start at this tent though, and I spot this entire hillside all the way down to that point. And after that, I have not found any tar zones beyond that point here.
Okay, and I will share a hotspot map with you guys later in the video, showing you everywhere where you need to look for your zones. And on that map, I will show you the spots where ibuy looks for his zones, the spots where he does his intense spotting. Cool?
Sounds good.
Okay, so how do you come to choose which time frame people should be grinding on?
So after setting up all your tents on the ridges, what I do is I actually start with the first feed time and then set it to that time, come to the tents. I hit all the tents and take a look and see what I have out there. And then basically whichever feed time has the most visible zones to you that you can easily set up on, that's the time that I choose to go ahead and put forth the effort to find all the rest of the zones, right?
So you don't have to find every zone for every time frame that they feed in, right?
No, not at all. In fact, with this particular setup right here, I'm set up with 7 tents total, and it's been enough for me to fully grind. At this point, I've grinded around 1,400 kills with 24 diamonds, 1 super rare, and 1 troll.
Not bad.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of time.
Using only 7 tents. Just remember that, 7 tents. So
it's huge. That's huge. More running, but honestly, in my opinion, having a full setup fallow grind and using 7 tents for this, it's extremely worth it.
So if you don't need tents for fallow grind, you can use the extra tents that you have as pickup tents for the tar grind, right?
Absolutely. And that will only make the grind faster for you, right? And that's an absolute benefit to it. There's a lot of good locations to shoot and collect. I just wanted both grinds personally.
Absolutely. Okay. So once they have discovered their zones, then what do they do?
Once they've discovered the zones, then it is a matter of starting to shoot. So with your zone types, you're going to have 2 different types. You're going to have an all male zone. You're going to have a large group of females with males as well, right? So with those, I've noticed that the female male groups, they tend to bounce more when you shoot the males from them. So I like to and prefer to actually set up on all male zones. With the male zones, though, I shoot 2 per zone, and as those gradually shoot down, I will shoot the rest of the males down in that zone to level 2 while maintaining my 2 shooters in that zone.
And how are you shooting them down? What are you doing to shoot them down?
Just rotating, simply rotating and shooting them as you're shooting those. So you're going to just pick 2 basically, right? While you're doing that, when you come back on your next rotation, if one of those or 2 of those happen to respawn as level 2s in that zone, you don't shoot them and you pick 2 other ones from that same herd and start shooting those, right? Until the rest of those males are 2s, and then you have your 2 shooters left in there. Now, if one of those respawns as a 2, make sure and shoot it and keep your 2 active shooters in that zone.
So you're not stacking any diamonds in this grind?
You can do that. I started a little bit with that, but honestly, there's so few zones that I feel like you don't really need to in order to get your herd management effective. However, if you do want to speed things along, absolutely you can stack your level 5s.
Okay. Well, there you go. You can choose to stack or you don't have to, and your zones will shoot down even if you don't stack diamonds.
Correct.
And what is your advice for setting up? So you have 1 tent on these high ridges, and then you shoot all of the zones that you can see, and then in one fell swoop, you run down and pick everything up. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and then if you do have extra tents, you can use them as pickup tents, and see, this is how he is set up. So you have tripods out there. What are they doing out there?
Yeah, so my tripod out there is actually, that's directly next to one of the shooting zones here. And what I do is I'll actually go up, I shoot here from my tent and tripod. I shoot that zone. I'll go over, I pick up there, I get right back into the tripod, and I shoot back across at another zone there that's directly in line with that other tripod to the left of us.
That's awesome. I have some spots like that on my grind too.
Yeah, it works great. I'm down, like I like it a lot actually.
Yeah, it works. It definitely works. I have a question. How many zones are you set up on?
I am currently shooting 9 zones.
That's it, eh? And what has your process been for shooting them down? Do you have main zones and exterior zones?
Well, so the 9 zones that I'm actually hunting right now are the main zones that I'm grinding. Everything outside of your main grinding zones is an exterior, right? So up to this point, I've actually already managed to shoot down several zones. You'll see different locations like over here.
Zones that you are not set up on right now?
Yeah.
That's what you
mean, right? Yeah. Zones that I'm not currently set up. And actually so like this location right here, right? I have a zone that's directly down. Like if you go to the tripod, you can actually go on the tripod and
I can see them.
So yeah, right down in front of us, right? This is one of the zones that I shoot right here. So it's 1 female and 3 males. One of the males is shot down to a level 2. So this level 3 and this level 4 right here, these are my 2 shooters that I take from this zone.
When you are setting up on your zones, how do you set up in order to shoot down your exteriors? What is your process?
So the way that I have it set up is my main zones are already set up. So from the tents that I actually use to spot my zones, those are currently my active shooting zones that I have for my grind. Everything else, I use extra tents. So I have 2 extra tents right now because again, I'm only using 7 tents total. So 5 of them are main zones that I will absolutely keep. Now, so I have 5 tents that are set up on zones that I'm actively shooting for my grind. The other 2 tents I'm using to move around the map to shoot down exterior zones. It's just a few at a time, right? Like I only have 2 extra tents, so I'm moving them to zones as they shoot down.
Yeah, so you're using your extra tents for exteriors, and when you get to that zone and there is nothing there to shoot, then you pull your tent and tripod and set it up on another exterior, and you keep doing that until they are all shut down.
Right.
And the other thing that ibuy is doing is he is shooting his main zones from these tents, but he's not shooting at every single zone. Some of those zones he is going to shoot down. So you'll be shooting down your exteriors and shooting at mains all from the same spot, right?
Yeah. So like this particular zone right here, there's 5 zones that are visible from this one setup, right? So I'm grinding on 3 of them currently, but I've already shot down 2 of the 5. And so these 3 zones are currently main zones, and I'm going to continue on with these in my grind. Yeah, once you have a zone shot down, you can absolutely just ignore it after that.
And I have something that I would actually like to share with you guys that could help you in your grind. So while I was doing my Tahr grind, one of my zones ended up an all-female zone. I don't know why that happened, but it did. So what I did was, while I was doing my rotations, so I was shooting 2 males from zones that had at least 4 males, and I shot 2 females out of my all-female zone. Then when I finished that rotation and I went back to that zone, it then had 2 males in it. Did those females respawn as males? No. Females always respawn as females and males always respawn as males, but when you shoot an animal, it opens up a spot, and animals don't necessarily respawn into the same zone. They respawn into the same home range. So they just swap zones, and that fixed my zone for me. Anyway, I thought that might help somebody. And the other thing that is very interesting, I'm going to go down here to this zone because this is where it happened. Okay, so this is definitely where you will want to have a tent to scout the area. I have a tent in the exact same spot on my map. And what happened was I had these 2 zones pretty much in the same spot on my map. Now at this zone right here, I had 4 males, and I accidentally shot 3 of them. And anytime you shoot a zone down to 1 animal, it is never going to get respawns again. So essentially, I broke the zone. I didn't mean to, but I did. So what I did was I shot the last male, and the zone should have deleted, but it didn't. So what I did was that zone was also a tar zone for an earlier feed zone time. So I changed the time to the earlier time, and another group of tar came into that zone, and I then blew the zone out. I shot 4 tar, and the zone then deleted. And when I came back, all the males from that zone actually moved over and are now in this zone. So I still have them to shoot. So that worked for me, and maybe it could work for you.
So generally speaking with zones, you're going to be looking on this one. I think it's actually about like 30 to 40 zones if I had to include like all solos and everything. But I was actively grinding on 25.
And I have a question. Is that for all zone times or just for 1 zone time?
That's just for 1 feed time.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, and that's just for 1 feed time.
Now, I want to mention that when I started to discover my Himalayan tar zones, a lot of the time I would spot the animals, I would hear that ding, but the zone would not attach to the map. It would still say chamois. So a lot of my chamois zones have tar in them. And if you are having this problem, one way to get around it, it's a bit of a pain in the neck, but you can go and drop a decoy on that zone, and that will tell you that you have tar there. But if that has been happening to you, it is happening to other people as well. The zones are a little bit buggy with this update.
Yeah,
Right.
I've been hearing that quite a bit, and I actually have a couple of zones that did that early on. However, they did end up attaching several rotations later when I spotted them again in the same place as I was rotating.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, and as a side note, if you like to grind with your tracker, with your bloodhound, or any of the dogs that is able to track, they don't work super great in the mountains. As you can see, my dog is way back here and I am over here. So the dog is not following me. He won't be helping me very much with tracking. Now, there is a workaround for this if you really do want to use your dog to track. If you have a tent around, what you want to do is just kennel the dog in the tent and bring it back out, and then your dog will be right beside you, and then he will track for you. So you can try that. Okay, so let's go over everything in a nutshell. So the very first thing that people want to do is climb to the top of as many ridges as necessary and do some serious glazing and find as many zones as you possibly can.
Right, yeah. Get out there, find your zones, and go through the different feed times, find where your best concentrated groups of tar are at.
And set up at the same time.
So for the next thing, once you're set up on those zones, you're going to have your main shooting zone selected. For exteriors, you're going to set tents down, hopefully at an accessible location. Some zones that you have are in a little bit thicker area. You'll want to set up on those as well and shoot those down in your rotation. Once those get shot down to level 2s, you're going to want to pick that tent up and move it to another exterior zone in your grind.
Keep doing that until they are all shot down.
Right.
Okay. And then we are going to be shooting our 2 biggest males from each zone.
Remembering to make sure that you're keeping 2 active shooters per zone as well, even if they respawn as a low level 2.
Then you just need to shoot that too next time.
Yep.
So continue doing your rotations until all your exteriors are shot down, and at which time you can pull those tents and set them up as pickup tents. And then you're just going to grind the main zones and just keep doing that until that great one shows up, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, let's have a look at that hotspot map. Okay, Okay, so I have marked on the map the spots where you can drop a tent and do some intense spotting, and those are all of my zones for my feed time, and I'm actually grinding on the 7 to 11 feed zone time. Now, I haven't found other zones and attached those to the map. Those are just my 7 to 11 zones. So basically, check for zones in the highlighted areas, and you will find all of your feed zones. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, and definitely go and show ibuy some love. I will leave his link here on the screen and in the description below. He streams most days on Twitch, and he is always doing the grind. And you can definitely go into his stream and ask him questions. He is happy to help, and so am I. If you did enjoy the video, go ahead and splat that like button, and if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks, ibuy.
Thank you, lady. Good luck on the grind, you guys.
Yes, good luck. You got this.